Story 1. People hide how they really are. They show you what they want you to see when you are dating but not living together. Story 2. Incompatibility, I'm guessing. Some people rush into relationships, move in together quickly, and get married before the sun even sets, only to realize they are not compatible in any way and end up resentful toward each other. Just a guess. Story 3. People aren't honest with each other, meaning they won't voice thoughts, feelings, or concerns until it's too late, all the while building resentment. Story 4. Lack of respect and communication. If you or your partner use insulting or degrading remarks and give the silent treatment, it is a sign of emotional immaturity. This should be a red flag to leave a relationship the moment you see it. Do not do it, and do not be with someone who does it to you. A healthy relationship has a solid foundation built on mutual respect and open communication. Another significant factor is people falling into the sunk cost fallacy. The thought process of "we argue often and have broken up several times, but we've been together for 8 years now, so I can't throw it all away," is flawed. Breakups, especially multiple breakups, are a sign that a relationship is not working out. When combined with constant arguments, it becomes a clear example of a relationship that needs to end rather than continue. Story 5. Hard to say specifically, but most likely a lack of commitment to the relationship, which can manifest in infidelity, financial arguments, lack of intimacy, and similar issues. Story 6. People get busy or tired and stop trying. They do not feel the need to communicate because they believe, "if you loved me, you should just know to do these things." Story 7. Letting the little things go because you do not want to start a fight. For example, women who do not ask for help from their husbands because they do not feel like they can rely on them. No, have the fight. Express your anger. Tell them to get up and use their eyes to figure out what needs to be done. This was an issue in my relationship for a while, and it did not help that my mom said, "He is a wonderful guy, and he works so hard during the week. Do not make waves because then he will leave." Well, what the hell? I work hard too. I do not deserve to do all of the housework because he is a good guy with a job. I get it, it will not always be 50-50, and that is fine. But I am glad we have always had the fight, and now, years later, we are happier, equal partners who do not need to ask for help. Story 8. Lesbians divorce at the highest rate. Straight couples divorce at a moderate rate, less than 50% for first marriages and more than 50% for subsequent marriages. Gay men divorce at the lowest rate. When straight couples file for divorce, the woman files first about 70% of the time. If you want a long, stable marriage, marry a gay man. My personal opinion is that boring people make strong marriage partners. Look for a person who brushes and flosses, buys a reliable car in a neutral color, and invests in their retirement plans starting in their 20s. What these things have in common is thinking about the future. I know several librarians with very long marriages. If you keep your books sorted, you can find them on the right shelf the next time you look. Story 9. Getting married in the first place? Besides that, kids and everything that follows. The stress of raising even the healthiest, most well-behaved kids will test any existing cracks in a relationship. It is not a reason to avoid having them. I would argue the only reason a lot of people get married in the first place is so their kids have married parents. But it is just the reality. Story 10. Cheating occurs because some people have not finished the courting stage of their lives. They enjoy the attention, novelty, and romantic feelings from the honeymoon stage. Story 11. Couples do not learn how to argue. You will not always agree, and sometimes anger is a valid emotion. How you choose to approach and address the issue is important, from minor disagreements to major decisions. Story 12. Expectation that your partner will meet all of your needs. Also, inability to open up and communicate effectively. Story 13. Low emotional intelligence, hands down, no contest. People without emotional skills lack awareness and understanding. They avoid issues, people please, have poor boundaries, and do not regulate their emotions. This leads to numerous problems in relationships, from distance to difficulties with communication to constantly escalating arguments. If you want to be a better partner, improve your emotional intelligence. If you want to find a good partner, Look for one who has worked on their emotional intelligence. Having attended therapy is a good indicator. Story 14. Men, not enough sex, with sex being only the tip of the iceberg of lack of intimacy or closeness overall. Women, empathic ruptures that were never resolved. Examples include: partner was unsupportive postpartum. Partner laughed at sexy photos the wife sent him. Partner sided with the wife's narcissistic parent at Christmas dinner. Partner told the wife her business idea was stupid and would never succeed. Story 15. Hollywood is the #1 reason for divorce, in my opinion. It sets unrealistic expectations about love, normalizes divorce as an easy solution, and fuels a culture of narcissism and instant gratification over sacrifice and commitment. Story 16. Lack of compromise. One person wants something and refuses to give any ground until it pushes the other person away. Story 17. Many people in modern times do not know each other but get married due to a socially induced urge. They often end up with a person they have nothing in common with. This is a leading cause of divorce. Story 18. I'm not married yet, but we would have been married a long time ago if we had even $2,000. We wanted to prioritize spending on a wedding. We have been through many seasons of life and major changes. We are still best friends, and I am sure a small gig is in our future. Anyway, my relationship turned 9 years this year. People grow and mature at different rates. When you meet the person you fall in love with, you are infatuated, and that cushions many of your insecurities and their flaws. Growing is messy. I think I have been about 16 different people in these past 9 years. My partner has loved me through all of it. Loving him back has been hard at times too. Then, when we come to a breaking point, what he brings to the table each time is the purest heart. A yearning to try, hear me out, and do better. From the outside, our relationship might seem like a breakup-worthy situation, but I have a man who has grown so much. I know he will continue to grow and mature with me in his own time. Story 19. Mental health is a significant factor in divorce. Anxiety related to finances, children, or in-laws, depression due to job loss or the grief of losing loved ones, and narcissism characterized by lack of compassion, understanding, or cheating are major causes. Ultimately, it all comes down to brain health. Story 20. People getting married just to get married. They had no business trying to get hitched, but societal pressures push women towards that. Story 21. Different visions of what you want in life. In my case, it seemed like we had the same values when we got married, but after we had children, it became obvious that we had two competing, incompatible ideas of what we wanted. Also, finances. Story 22. I think as people grow and change, relationships sometimes have expiration dates. Sometimes they do not. Sometimes people just stay because they do not want to be alone. Story 23. Marrying for passion instead of compatibility. People overlook many red flags when passionately in love. Arranged marriages have a high success rate because of the social constructs and thought that go into them. I am not advocating for arranged marriages. It is more important to marry someone who wants the same things out of life as you do, rather than someone you cannot stand being apart from. Story 24. Relationships are meant to change and grow. Sometimes people grow together and stay committed to each other and the relationship, and sometimes they grow into different people independent of each other. Story 25. Two people who probably should not have married in the first place. To be honest, in many cases there were early signs during dating. Story 26. Lack of communication. It is okay not to agree on everything. It is okay to have different interests, but you need to communicate if you want the relationship to last. Keeping things from your partner will always end badly, and not listening to your partner's concerns is just as harmful. Story 27. Lack of communication and trying to change the other person. People change when they want to change, not when we want them to change. Story 28. If I'm being honest, I thought I was ready, but I didn't know I was ready. It felt like a life milestone that needed to be checked because of my age. It turned out that we had spent a lot of time apart due to my work travels, and when my job changed, I was home every night. I realized that I didn't actually know her like I thought I did, and we just drifted apart. Story 29. Change. Typically, what comes after marriage is getting a house, sometimes having children, and obviously aging, all significant changes. People are not immune to change after signing a marriage contract. Sometimes factors like financial issues, jobs, moving houses, and retirement plans can transform a person. Occasionally, two spouses may change into individuals who are no longer compatible with each other. Story 30. An inability or lack of desire to have conversations instead of confrontations goes hand in hand with not having enough respect for yourself and your partner to want to communicate. Story 31. Rarely is there one reason, but sex is the universal answer for everything. Everything stems from sex. Too much, too little, or too much with someone other than a spouse. Sex can fix nearly everything. Wreck the car, apologize with sex. Spend the life savings at the casino, give lots of sex. Story 32. One of the biggest frustrations in a marriage is when a couple forgets how important intimacy is. Story 33. Money and someone thinking they are the boss of the other person. No one grows up and thinks, wow, I want someone to live with me and tell me what to do my whole life. Also, nobody can make you happy. You have to be happy with yourself before you can be happy with someone else. Story 34. People look at marriage as disposable. I have been with my wife for 40 years. Not every year was roses and strawberries. Some years we really disliked each other. But here we are, sitting on a couch together, watching Downton Abbey with our daughter sitting between us. Story 35. Comprehension. Communication is only effective if there is understanding of the message. Otherwise, it is just noise. Story 36. Failure to communicate and failure to value. They are separate, but travel together so closely that I believe you will eventually find both together. Story 37. The choice of not choosing your partner requires effort. First is making that choice every day. Next is communication. Deep, complete, and heartfelt. Compromise, trust, and conflict resolution are essential. Story 38. I believe in my heart that the best thing we could have done was to use some kind of drug together to help her loosen up. To see that side of her, I would have loved it. I was pretty uptight as well. We never got drunk together or used marijuana or ecstasy. We should have. I am 60 and very lonely. People do not make friends easily at 60, and the prospects for intimacy feel very distant. Forever. Story 39. 1. Lack of communication both prior to the marriage contract or promises, as well as when challenges arise during execution. Expecting a second party to fix your personal challenges or thinking you can solve someone else's problems. Expecting too much from a simple mating or nesting situation where nature intended humans to have and raise children until they are self-sufficient. Post-agricultural human society has outpaced biological human nature, even though religion and law have tried to enforce this through threats of loss and punishment. Story 40. I think I married my ex just to say I was married, to prove to people who thought I was a mess that I could be part of a functioning family. I tried to ignore that the person I was with was not a good match. I believe he got married because he thought it meant I couldn't leave, even though his only hobby was calling me stupid to my face every day in front of our child. He just wanted a punching bag in life. I've since remarried someone much better, but first I had to train myself not to care what other people thought. Story 41. They say you have to love a person unconditionally. However, the longer I have lived on this earth, the more I realize that you can do that only for a few people in this lifetime, and you can never easily replicate that unconditional love for anyone else. Story 42. Marriage. We are not a species that mates for life. For humans, we want different things all the time. You can love someone without a piece of paper. If you do get married, the government gets involved and tells us who we can or cannot marry. Some people believe in having more than one wife. That is none of my business. Why does the government have to be involved at all? Marriage is a failed experiment. Story 43. Marriage. In all seriousness, there are many different reasons, but I think the main one is probably just growing apart. Sometimes it is not something that can be fixed. People change. Sometimes it was a bad decision that should never have been made in the first place. People are less willing to stay together now because they realize being happy is more important than honoring some vows. Story 44. People settle when they are 25 and then get mad about having settled when they are 30. It then stews until their 40s and it ends badly. Story 45. Resentment occurs when we feel that a person is acting reasonably, which is acceptable. However, when we believe someone is trying to hurt us or does not care enough to resolve conflicts, listen, or meet our needs, we develop resentment. From there, it becomes incredibly difficult to resolve. Story 46. Incompatibility. Far too many people get together, stay together, get married, and have children despite not being truly compatible. I call it being stuck in a comfortable rut. People are in situations where they are unhappy but not unhappy enough, or at least they do not want to accept how unhappy they are and do something about it. It is easier than finding someone else or being alone. Over time, they drift further apart after all the big commitments have been made, and things get messy. They stay together for the children out of tradition, social expectation, financial protection, or because they do not recognize that separating is healthier for everyone involved. It appears to me that this describes the majority of couples. They connected over something like a shared interest, going out for drinks or meeting at a club, and found physical attraction. But that is where it started and stopped. Story 47. Wanting to change your partner and blaming them for the problems in the relationship instead of learning to change yourself by healing your trauma and poor communication patterns, and learning to accept the reality of who both of you are, then making decisions based on the truth between you. This does not necessarily guarantee that your current relationship will succeed, but it will definitely give it or a future relationship a fighting chance. Story 48. Abuse of any kind should not be tolerated. As humans, we all have our flaws. But there is an unspoken rule. If you cannot maintain your humanity throughout a relationship, you do not deserve to be in one. Be strong enough to leave as well. It does get better. Story 49. Making the bad choice to get married in the first place. Many couples should never get married. Recognizing this upfront would save a lot of heartache and mental anguish. Story 50. Getting married too young, that is, under 30. Many people in their 20s do not know what they want, romanticize marriage or see it as just the wedding and the ring, still have personal growth to do, forget to experience youth before settling down, and later feel regret. Some are simply not in a stable place to be attached to another person yet. Marriage can be a significant rude awakening if you are not ready. This age group still has the highest rate of divorces. Story 51. Not fighting well. It almost does not matter what the fight is, but if you cannot maintain respect when you argue, you are doomed. Next is not even bothering to argue, which breeds resentment. How many times do you read a Reddit post where we have to tell the writer to just talk to their partner, making each other's needs transactional rather than central? Story 52. Rushing to marriage. My friend got married after only a few months of knowing her now ex-husband. They divorced a year after the wedding. Story 53. Lack of true friendship and respect kills connection fast. Without a foundation of real teamwork, even love can crumble. Story 54. Incompatibility. Some people either do not ask enough questions or spend enough time together to understand who the person really is. On the other hand, some people hide or mislead about themselves, and you do not realize the reality until it is too late. Story 55. Apathy is simply no longer caring about the wants and needs of others. It means not caring about sustaining a friendship or partnership, in other words, no longer caring to care. Story 56. Mismatched expectations in one or more of the top 4 areas. Sex or mismatched libido, money, children, and values. Story 57. There are many reasons depending on how long the marriage lasted, how long the couple dated before marriage, external stressors to the marriage such as having children from a previous relationship, having serious debt, addiction issues, and age. I do not believe in the idea that before age 25 your frontal lobe cortex is not fully developed, but you do have to be truly aligned as a young couple to make it last. In my experience, allowing major positive traits to overshadow significant negative ones is problematic. For example, your partner may have serious jealousy issues but a phenomenal physical connection, or your partner may lack ambition but be very attentive and accommodating. The small issues you notice at the beginning will likely worsen, so starting a marriage with a significant problem is a setup for disaster. Story 58. Being complacent. Small things chip away until you stop caring. Put in the work and be honest with each other. Story 59. In my experience, the number one cause is that they should never have been married to begin with. There were too many conversations that never happened but were needed. Story 60. Bad management of expectations and communication. There are external situational issues like cost of living or work stress that exert more pressure each day. But those things are temporary and not as core to the success of a marriage as ensuring you are both aligned with and conscious of each other. It is a partnership until it is not. Story 61. My first wife and I dated for 7 years before we got married. I thought I knew her very well. Within 3 years after getting married, she was a completely different person, and not one that I loved. We had an amicable divorce and stayed friends for a while, but once I found my current wife, we stopped talking. Story 62. It's when you realize what the 3 rings of marriage are: the engagement ring, the wedding ring, and the suffering. Story 63. So far, I have only seen negative reasons, which is interesting because it implies that divorce is inherently always terrible. I would not agree with that, so I will add what I think are the top positive reasons for divorce. One or both partners realize they would be happier and act better as friends or co-parents than continuing a romantic relationship. One person realizes they are being mistreated or taken advantage of and gains the courage to leave. Story 64. Being around the other person is exhausting and feels like a chore rather than a relief or a good part of your day. Story 65. Lack of respect. I am divorcing a covert narcissist. All of his harmful behavior stems from lack of respect. He manipulated every situation to suit himself and blamed me for everything. Sex was all about him. Everything was about him. He never saw me as my own person. He crushed any attempts at autonomy. He does not see me as anything other than his slave. This separation did not happen soon enough. Story 66. When one partner starts to depend on the other for happiness, fulfillment, and reassurance to curb their insecurity, the relationship is heading down the drain. Trust me, nothing the other partner does will ever be enough. Then animosity and resentment set in, followed by cheating and divorce. Story 67. Incompatible relationships and being unwilling to work through conflicts, even when compatible, can be challenging. Mental health is also a significant factor. I was dumped by someone because my depressive disorder takes a huge toll on anyone who is more than just a casual acquaintance. Cannot blame him. It is hard to watch someone you love go through self-destructive periods when they are hurting so much it is unbearable, with no way to help them. Story 68. Abuse, of course. Any kind as well. Emotional, physical, sexual, etc. Literally, it is the number one issue. Story 69. My divorced friends all have a similar pattern. They felt increasingly alone while taking care of more and more responsibilities. Since they felt isolated, they decided to reclaim their freedom. Many also expressed frustration about not feeling like a team and having to convince their husband to be engaged and present. Story 70. Losing sight of what made you fall in love originally. Not putting in effort every day. Not appreciating what you have. Otherwise, it was not meant to be. People make bad decisions sometimes. Story 71. Not having anything to talk about or having very unbalanced or opposite communication styles can be challenging. I am a great listener, but I also want to be heard. I do not understand people who say they have nothing to talk about with their significant other. Every night, I wish I could stay up later or get up earlier to talk more with my significant other. Another issue is having different parenting styles or not presenting a united front. Story 72. No longer doing all the wonderful things you did in the beginning when you were trying hard to attract your spouse, then complaining that intimacy has become lackluster. Story 73. A lot of posts discuss issues during marriage, but in my opinion, many people rush into marriage without proper consideration or understanding beforehand. I have seen many people jump into marriage because they think it is the right thing to do, only to be surprised by deal-breaker habits at home, serious financial problems, or completely different life goals. Story 74. An inability or unwillingness to communicate. If you are angry about something, You will only become angrier when others do not notice your hints that you are upset. Use your words. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.